has as much to do with economics as politics. The black unemployment rate approaches 40%, and the country is just now pulling out of recession. Carjackings are out of control in Johannesburg and many of the surrounding areas. Even here in Pilanesberg Game Reserve, about a 2-hour drive from Johannesburg, the adventure isn't always in the park, but on the roads leading to it. At night, it is common for motorists to ignore traffic lights so that no one can jump in.
You just go, you don't care if there's cars coming, even if you have to cause an accident, you'll still have your life and your car.
The threat also exists during the day.
When I was stopping, they just come. I thought they were just passing. They point me at my window with a gun, and then they say I must come out. When I came out, and then they took my keys and drove my car away.
American journalists John Koppisch and Maureen Sullivan moved to South Africa 5 years ago. Since then, Sullivan has been attacked in her car, and their house has been broken into twice.
When we first moved here, we had a front gate. We didn't lock it. We didn't think it was necessary. Then we started locking it. And then a couple years ago, we started locking the door to our bedroom.
Everyone I know has been a victim of crime, and quite serious crime.
And the conviction rate is negligible. South Africa's police force is overwhelmed trying to deal with political violence, so South Africa's citizens are arming themselves. Sales have more than doubled in the last few months at Bentel Arms, a suburban gun dealer. Customer Fraser Clark was already carrying a gun, and he was looking at others.
There's been a lot of problems in the areas I work in, and a lot of hijackings happening around. And I decided to get a gun in case it happens to me next.
The siege mentality is also visible in South Africa's supermarkets, where fearful customers are causing shortages of bottled water and canned goods.
I got this letter, and I actually thought it was a joke, but there are no candles on the shelves. People are piling, there's no bread on the shelves, the milk is going.
This is not the kind of publicity the new South Africa wants, as it tries to lure new businesses and tourists. The Las Vegas-style resort of Sun City is spending more on security.
We have our own hospital, we have our own security force, we have our own fire department, and we take painstaking but very subtle, very friendly ways to make sure that our guests are comfortable here.
The challenge for the new government of South Africa will be to make sure all of its citizens are comfortable and safe. Susan Lisovich, CNBC Business News.
And, of course, we're usually joined by our financial correspondent, Dan Dorfman, for a live report at this time. Dan is off today. He will, however, be back tomorrow.
Disney go home. We'll tell you why the government doesn't want Disney to open a new theme park in a certain part of Virginia when we come back.
This program is sponsored by NASDAQ, the stock market for the next 100 years.
They created their microprocessor in 1971, and the faster their chips have performed, the faster their company has grown. Today, the Intel design is the brains behind 2/3 of the world's PCs. By the 21st century, Intel expects their chip to execute 2 billion instructions in 1 second. Where do you find such fast-thinking companies? Actually, there's a list of them printed every day. NASDAQ, the stock market for the next 100 years.
What do you know about your stocks right now?
I thought I knew about my stocks when I bought them. Wrong.
Some of my stocks show a profit, some don't. What should I do?
Some of my stocks are down. Do I sell or wait for a rebound?
Here's the answer. Value Line's Investors Reference Library with 1,700 full-page stock reports, each featuring Value Line's rank for price performance. Value Line has been ranking stocks in this manner for more than 25 years with these outstanding results. This entire reference library is yours as a bonus with your subscription to Value Line's weekly stock reports to keep your information current. For only $55, Value Line will keep you up to date for the next 10 weeks. Only $55.
I knew all about my stocks when I bought them. How do I keep up with them?
Get the answers. Call 800-472-7753 for your bonus Value Line Investors Library and 10 weeks of crucial Value Line updates. Call now, and you'll also get every Investor's Guide to Wall Street Words as an extra bonus. That's 800-472-7753. Call now.
Now there's an investment tool that provides things bank accounts, CDs, mutual funds, and other investments can't provide. The tool is stock options. How can options help you pry up new profits or hammer down investment security. To find out, call 1-800-9522 for your free options videotape, guide, and disclosure document. Options involve risk and are not for everyone, but the options tool might help you hit your goals right off the head.
The Options Tool. For your free guide, videotape, and disclosure document, call now.
As the expanding economy creates more new jobs, there are some things the newly hired should be thinking about. People who are heading back to work after a long layoff face some tough questions about benefits and often how to pay off bills that have stacked up. CNBC's Kevin McCullough reports.
So you're heading off to a new job. All that seems to matter is starting to work, bringing in a check, and perhaps getting out of debt. But financial advisors say, barring emergencies, don't rush to pay off all the bills.
Let's build those building blocks one more time. Let's start with the fundamentals. A liquidity base, some basic emergency reserves, and then, yes, let's start paying off the debt, doing everything slowly, methodically, and carefully. Not let's take that first paycheck and spread it all around.
Pointers for getting on your feet financially? Try to build a reserve to cover 2 to 3 months of expenses in case the new job doesn't work out. Give priority to paying off debt that you can access again, such as lines of credit or home equity loans, ahead of simple consumer loans. Pay attention to how much interest you're paying on different loans and any tax implications connected with them. Get a new job in corporate America, and before you get to work, you'll probably have to take a detour to the personnel department to face a dizzying array of forms. Again, experts say move cautiously. On health insurance, don't give up what you've got until you're sure what the new plan covers, its effective date, and how it deals with pre-existing medical conditions. On pension benefits, consider how they compare to what you have and whether you'll have to rethink long-term plans for retirement. And if the company provides life insurance, make sure the beneficiary you list on the form doesn't conflict with your will.
We run across individuals who've put a great deal of time and effort into developing a comprehensive estate plan, and yet when they start employment, they'll designate a beneficiary that might be incongruent with the rest of their plan.
Companies usually have a few forms that have to be signed right away: application, proof of legal residence, tax withholding. Financial experts say that new hires should ask if they can take the rest of the material home to study carefully or get the right to change their benefits package later on. Kevin McCullough, CNBC Business News.
The president of one of IBM's key operations is leaving his job. The president of Big Blue's PC area is cashing in his chips at the end of the month. Robert Corrigan is going to retire after giving the company 32 years. Corrigan is credited with turning around IBM's personal computer operations. Right now, Big Blue is trading a half better at 58.
Government wants Disney to retire a plan to build a theme park in historic Haymarket, Virginia. Disney wants to build a history theme park in the town near Washington, D.C., but the National Trust for Historic Preservation is criticizing the plan, saying it would destroy the historic environment. More than a dozen historic towns and 16 Civil War battlefields are within an hour's drive of Haymarket. Shares of Disney unchanged now at 42 3/8.
Good news for health-conscious consumers is on the way. The Food and Drug Administration is introducing its new food label. The label has standardized serving sizes, easier to read type, and highlights information on calories, fat, and other nutritional values. This is the first major change in food labels in 20 years. Food manufacturers must start using the label by next Sunday. Certainly will help me reading that small print.
I don't want to know how much fat I'm taking in, believe me. When we come back, Ford's latest earnings report has earned it a new look from Merrill Lynch. We'll find out what it is and how the stock is reacting and whether it's making you or losing your money if you hold Ford. Back in a minute.
This is CNBC.
I am absolutely not in control of my money whatsoever. I'm pretty good with her money.
Now that I think about it, I'm not in that much control.
I let my wife run my finances.
I'd consider myself fortunate if I was in control maybe 1 or 2 days a week.
Only way I'd be able to control my finances is to stop spending money.
I would love to have a little green man come into my room at night,
a financial advisor,
a rich relative, and tell me where to invest, where to spend, where to save.
If you want to start getting control of your finances, start by getting Money Magazine. Money shows you how to build your savings, invest wisely, spend smartly, and it's yours risk-free.
Risk-free. Risk-free, yes. Risk-free.
One risk-free issue would be perfect, just to sample it.
I like the sound of that a lot.
Call now. Get your first issue risk-free. You'll see that Money Magazine is the smart, easy way to get control of your finances.
There's got to be something in every issue of money that's worth more than what you paid for it.
I invested a bit of my savings into a mutual fund recommended by Money Magazine.
They give you good, sound advice.
And because of that, I've made a bundle.
I followed the advice and I made some money.
And if you call now, we'll also send Money's exclusive financial guides, a 3-part series that will help you manage your money, build a future, and achieve your dreams. Now they're yours, free.
Free. Love that word, free.
Free. Free guides are a great idea.
They show you how to save your money.
All 3 of the guys would be great to hold on to.
They show you how to keep it free and save it for retirement.
Perfect.
Call this number now. Get a risk-free issue of Money and the guides free.
Give it to me now. Absolutely.
If you like your risk-free issue of Money, do nothing. You'll get 12 more informative issues, 13 in all, for just 4 easy installments of only $8.99.
A no-lose proposition.
Or cancel and keep your first issue plus the guides free.
I have saved quite a bit of money because of Money Magazine's recommendation.
Money Magazine has helped me manage my money.
Money puts you in control. Call now. Examine your first issue of Money Magazine risk-free. Plus get Money's financial guides free.
Try Money Magazine for free. I mean, it's at no risk.
You can't lose.
Oh, hiya, howdy do.
Oh, well, hello, Buffalo Bob.
Yeah, howdy, I got news for you. You know, even in those days, I was an investor, and I always used full commission brokers. Oh, but I don't clown around anymore. Today, I use deep discount broker AccuTrade. I've been using AccuTrade for over 2 years now, and I've saved thousands of dollars because I pay only 3 cents per share commission. My customer service reps are terrific, and if I have any questions, they're right there to help me. And AccuTrade service is free. As long as I'm investing, I'll be using AccuTrade because there are no strings attached.
Goodbye from us to you.
You only need $5,000 to open and maintain your account. The minimum charge is just $48. Call today to connect with AccuTrade, member SIPC.
Welcome back. Time for a quick read on some of this hour's winners and losers, thanks to Ed Caldwell. Shares of Ford Motors rising a point to 59 3/8. Merrill Lynch is raising earnings estimates after the #2 automaker reported sharply higher first-quarter net of $1.66 a share on Friday. Diamond Shamrock shares down 3/8. The Texas-based oil company was downgraded to an intermediate neutral from above average at Merrill. Oil services concern Halliburton up 1/8 to 29 3/4. First-quarter net income came in at 16 cents a share. That's 2 cents above estimates. The company also says it will trim more than 1,200 jobs this spring. And finally, Sphinx Pharmaceuticals up 5/8 at 5 5/8. The company has agreed to be acquired by Eli Lilly for $6 a share.
Bill Griffith usually joins us at this hour for a look at options. He's on assignment today. Also want to say hello to the good folks at the CBOE. I had an opportunity to go out to the 12th annual options conference out there. So hi to Chuck Henry and to Bill Flores and Duke Chapman and the rest. Let's get down to business here, show you where we stand. In Chicago, we start things off with the CBOE active indices, starting with the May 415 call, which is up a quarter at 4 5/8. The 415 put down an eighth at 4 5/8. The May 410 put down an eighth at 2 7/8. The 420 call for May unchanged at 1 15/16. The May 420 call up a quarter at 8. Let's take a look at the active puts now in Chicago, and we've got IBM on the list here. The May 55 down 3/16 at 7/16. The June 55 is down 3/8 at 15/16, and IBM stock today up a half at 58. We have BNY here. That should be BMY. That's Bristol Myers Squibb, so we apologize for that, but it's a September 55 put that we're looking at. It's down 3/8 at 2 7/8, and Bristol Myers today at 55 is up 1 1/8 on the session. Telmex, the last two here, the May 55 down an eighth at 5/8. The May 60 is unchanged at 2 5/8. The stock today, Telmex, is off 3/4 at 58 1/8. Let's take a look at the calls. GM, the May 55 is up an eighth at 2 7/8. GM stock up an eighth today, 56 7/8. Coca-Cola, the May 40 up 3/8 at 2 1/4, and Coke stock today unchanged at 41 3/4. Merck's January 25 call up a quarter at 6 3/8. Merck stock today up a full point. Eastman Kodak's May 45 is up 3/8 at 3/4, and Kodak stock today up 1 1/8 at 42 5/8. Big Blue's May 55 call up a half at 3 3/8. Let's head to New York now, where we look at the active puts on the Amex. Intel dominating the list here. The stock today off a half at 60 1/2. The May 65, the May 70, and the May 55 all up, as you can see, 5/8, a half, and an eighth, respectively. The S&P Mid-Cap Index, the May 165 is up a steenth at 5/8. The May 172 1/2 down 11/16 at 2 1/8. The Mid-Cap Index today off fractionally at 172.41. On we go to the active calls at the Amex. We've got Westinghouse. This is the leap, the January 95, 22 1/2. It's down a 16th at a 16th. Westinghouse stock off an eighth today at 11 3/8. It's the pharmaceutical index, DRG. The May 160 call on this index up 1 3/4 at 3 3/4. The index itself is up 5.44 today at 163.08 on the back of the news pertaining to Hoffman, LaRoche, and Syntex. A lot of those stocks moving higher today. Unisys, the July 15 call is down 1/16 at an eighth. Unisys stock today is off a quarter. And then we've got, rounding things out, Phillips Petroleum, the August 30, which is down a 16th. The May 30 is down 1/8. The stock up an eighth today, as we say, at $31. I beg your pardon. Yes. No. No. Yes, the stock is at $31. So not the premium.
Let's take a look at the futures markets right now. We have the June futures off a half a point, floating with the lows of 103.25. Critical support, traders are telling us. June futures for the S&P, however, shrugging off that bond market weakness, now paring its losses to only off 0.15. Platinum continues to gain support from the sister metal and tightness in palladium, while the dollar is weaker versus the D-mark, higher versus the yen. Let's take a look at the scoreboards. update on the multi-billion-dollar drug takeover in the news. Syntex is open and it's up big.
Then 30 minutes from now, it's Money Talk. Today's topic, making sure that when you die, the right people get the right things and Uncle Sam doesn't become a relative. See you in a half hour. Thanks for watching. I'm Ted Daly.
Every night, Tom Snyder welcomes the brightest stars, the biggest personalities, and the people you want to meet. Join us for the best talk coast to coast. Tom Snyder tonight.
Tonight on Rivera Live. 2 years ago, the verdict in the Rodney King trial set off riots that rocked the very foundation of L.A. Why have recent efforts to build race relations put L.A. on very shaky ground? Tonight on Rivera Live.
It's the only nightly personal finance show on TV.
We help you make, save, and protect your money.
It's your money. How to save it.
And not become a victim of a con job.
Sue Herrera, Janice Lieberman, Money Tonight, Monday through Friday only on CNBC.
In the competition among balanced mutual funds, only one can be first. Only one balanced fund ranks first for the past 5 years. Only one balanced fund ranks first for the past 10 years. Only one. CGM Mutual Fund, a flexible no-load fund managed continuously since 1981 by Ken Hebner. For a prospectus, call 1-800-CGM-INFO. CGM Mutual Fund, America's #1 balanced fund.
Power. Performance. Possibilities. They could be yours when you trade commodity futures and options on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. High-powered trading strategies for those who can handle the possibilities. So get our free video. Call 1-800-336-3332 and see what's possible for you.
CNBC is first in talk.
First for a new approach to interactive talk TV.
First for the greatest lineup of talk hosts anywhere. CNBC is first in talk.
Tonight on Tim Russert. Guest Howard Kurtz, author of Media Circus, takes a hard look at the press, the roller coaster coverage of the Clinton White House, and how the once trusted media is falling prey to sensationalism. That's tonight on Tim Russert.
Good day. This is the Money Wheel on CNBC. I'm Dean Shepard. Sue Herrera is on assignment today. Not even half the votes are counted, but South African President F.W. de Klerk concedes to Nelson Mandela and the African National Congress. We'll update that breaking story in just a few minutes. First, shares of Syntex are up more than 50% today on news that Hoffman LaRoche will be buying the company for $24 a share. That works out to $5.3 billion. Right now, Syntex is up 8 5/8 at 23 3/4 after jumping 1 1/4 on Friday in very active trading. The company has seen declining sales lately after 2 of its leading products lost U.S. patent protection late last year. Well, that opened the door to generic competitors, of course. Syntex officials say they wanted to align with a strong global partner so the company could better respond to rapid changes in the healthcare industry. Hoffman LaRoche is the U.S. subsidiary of Roche Holding based in Switzerland. With the addition of Syntex's market share, Roche moves to #6 in the U.S. marketplace. Elsewhere on the merger front, a deal in the insurance financial services sector. Conseco says it will pay $350 million for Statesman Group. The deal will bring stockholders $15 1/4 a share, but shareholders also will be given the right to receive up to another $2 in cash based on the outcome of Statesman's pending lawsuit against the federal government in connection with Statesman's former savings bank subsidiary. Shares of Statesman are up 3/8 at 14 7/8, while Conseco is up a point at 56 1/4. While the markets are awaiting Friday's release of the national unemployment report for April, some workers already know the unemployment news in their own lives, and it's bad. In Lordstown, Ohio, about 2,900 GM workers will be laid off this summer when the nation's #1 automaker launches a new version of the Chevrolet Cavalier and Pontiac Sunbird. Since the new models will be easier to build, GM says it will need fewer workers. Shares of GM are up 1/8 today at 56 7/8. Job cuts also the story at Neiman Marcus, which says the shuttering of 50 stores will result in up to 1,000 layoffs. 50 of Neiman Marcus's Contempo casual stores will be closed, and the Pastille retail business will be phased out. The company set a $48 million charge to cover the restructuring costs. While the markets are awaiting Friday's release of the national unemployment report for April, some workers already, as I mentioned, know the fate. And one of the early snapshots of April economic conditions is in, and it looks fairly positive. The National Association of Purchasing Management's survey of manufacturing conditions nosed a point higher to 57.7%. Analysts had expected it to remain flat. Also today, the government says construction spending rose 0.8% in March. That was a little below expectations, although it was overshadowed in the bond market by the Purchasing Managers Report. Bonds tumbling on the upbeat news, continuing the slide we saw late last week. The 30-year Treasury at last look was down almost 3/4, in fact, exactly 3/4 of a point at 86 18/32. The yield at 7.37%. But even though the bond market continues its slide, stocks have continued to move a little bit higher today. Let's go to the latest and show you the numbers. The industrials up just over 4 points at 3685.86. The transports, though, giving back some of last week's strong gains, down better than 16 points at 1644.02. And the utilities, following the bond market's lead, down just over 2 points now at 197.34. Big board composite is down just a fraction at 250.28 on turnover of 160.75 million shares, with declining stocks barely ahead of advancers. The margin's about 10-9 with 642 issues holding steady. The S&P 500 cash is flat at 450.91. The Amex is down just over a point at 438.86, but a nearly 3-point gain for the Nasdaq at 736.78. And for more now on the trading day, let's check in with Roy Blumberg, standing by live at our Wall Street Bureau. Hi, Roy.
Well, hello, Dean. A mixed market today. This morning, we start out with no new economic news pre-opening. The market opened quietly lower, with the Dow down 2 points in the first 5 minutes of trading, and as much as 8 points a couple minutes after that. By 10 o'clock, though, we were only down 3.27 at the 36.78 level. Breadth was negative by about 100 issues and volume at 31 million shares, a fairly moderate pace. Well, at 10 o'clock, when the National Association of Purchasing Management numbers were announced, and they were a little stronger than expected, bond prices sold off, taking the Dow down to minus 15 points in the next half hour, which has so far turned out to be the worst levels of the day. By 11 o'clock, we were only down 8.03 at the 36.74 level. Breadth negative at a 7-to-10 ratio and volume at 79 million shares, a fairly moderate pace. Well, from there, the market did recover as bonds recovered a bit. The Dow was up as much as 5 points, but at 12 o'clock, we were only up 0.60 at the 36.82 level. Breadth still negative, though a narrower range with only 200 more stocks down than up, and volume continuing to slow at 120 million shares. Well, during the lunch hour here in New York, we did go to minus 5, but from there we recovered again. And by 1 o'clock, the Dow was just about at its best levels of the day, up 4.76 at the 36.86 level. Breadth still negative by 175 issues and volume at 161 million shares, turning out to be a fairly slow pace. So, Dean, we really have pretty much a mixed market, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average being in about a 20-point trading range. Secondary stocks are doing a little bit better, though. Back to the studio.
Okay, thanks, Roy. Roy Blumberg at our Wall Street Bureau. We have this news just in. Dr. Jack Kevorkian was found innocent today in the death of a 30-year-old man last summer. In the first trial under Michigan's year-old ban on assisted suicide, Kevorkian was charged with breaking the law in the early August death of a man who suffered from Lou Gehrig's disease, which is a degenerative nerve disorder that left him barely able to walk, talk, or feed himself. Again, Dr. Jack Kevorkian found innocent in the death of that 30-year-old man. Checking other stories in the news at this hour, South African President F.W. de Klerk has conceded defeat in his country's elections. The African National Congress has captured more than 60% of the vote, clearing the way for Nelson Mandela to become the next president. De Klerk says Mandela has a long road ahead of him.
Thousands of ordinary people. Mr. Mandela has walked a long road and now stands at the top of the hill. A traveler would sit down and admire the view. But a man of destiny knows that beyond this hill lies another and another.
Those are the latest headlines. We'll have more stories in the news coming up in 1 hour. Oh, with the dollar breaking down and the oil market heading up, what does that mean for bond prices? We'll get that answer next in Tech Talk. Stay with us.
I want the best information I can get without paying a premium for it. That's why I chose Signal Delayed. For a low monthly fee, I receive data from all the major markets just 10 to 30 minutes after the trade occurs. And I get real-time indices for free. Signal Delayed delivers accurate, reliable quotes over TV cable to my PC. It's easy to use and helps me make informed trading decisions. Order Signal Delayed today and you'll receive 4 free weeks of Signal reports. Call now, 1-800-833-2858.
When I first got into the market, I was making my own investment decisions and paying full commissions. I needed something different. I started Quick and Rally to provide investors with substantial commission savings and quality investment service. Our brokers are knowledgeable professionals who provide personal service rather than sales pressure. I'm confident in our service and stand behind it with a money-back guarantee. Call us or stop by your local office to open an account today.
Mill City Gold Mining Corporation, a publicly traded company, is a rising star in Canada's 1994 diamond rush. The Diamet Minerals discovery sparked a multi-billion-dollar diamond rush, and Diamet stock rose from under 50 cents to over $65 a share. Mill City's diamond discoveries are also in the rich Lac de Gras diamond corridor, bordering Diamet's 16 diamond pipe discoveries and 26 targets. Mill City discovered 3 diamond pipes in 3 targets and has 29 more targets to drill. A single pipe can be worth $9 billion, and the content of a sample from Mill City's major discovery, the Tory pipe, ranks among the highest in Canada. 2 out of Mill City's 29 targets are under the same lake as its Tory pipe. London-based mining experts with Credit Lyonnaise Lang and T. Horan Company agree Mill City's share price is undervalued and recommend it a buy. For your corporate report, call now.
When you want to hear today's leaders answer penetrating questions, who do you think of? When you want to discuss real news at the street level, who do you think of? When you want the whole story and the truth behind the story, who do you think of? When you want serious, intelligent, and provocative talk, who do you think of? If you didn't think of Rivera, maybe you haven't seen Rivera Live. Sunday through Friday, only on CNBC. First in talk.
At 7, join Bill Griffith and pursue your financial goals on your portfolio.
And welcome to today's edition of Tech Talk. CNBC technical analyst John Murphy joins us now with a look at the currency, oil, and credit markets, and beginning with the action in the dollar that absolutely refuses to go up after hitting, 3-month lows against the yen last Friday.
Yes, and in fact, the dollar index itself, which is the dollar against a basket of currencies, is at a 6-month low, and that is beginning to worry a lot of traders in both the bond and the stock markets. Let's begin there, because I know we've been following this very closely over the last week or two, but a lot of attention is now being focused on the dollar, because notice that last week when we broke under 93, which was simply the low that was set during the last week in March, that put the dollar index at a 6-month low, and this does represent at least a short-term breakdown here. The next downside target would be down around 90, which was a low that was set late last year. So the dollar very much remains on the defensive. We're also opening the week down, not by a lot. We're down about 13 ticks today. We're slipping just a little bit below 92. There was some central bank intervention on Friday, but so far that doesn't appear to be having much of an impact. So the dollar is weakening. By the way, that moving average line on there is a 40-day moving average. We'll be using that as we look at many of the charts as we move ahead. Now, one of the problems with a falling dollar is that one of the reasons it creates some problems is that if the dollar continues to weaken here, it raises the prospects that the Federal Reserve, if they want to defend this thing, may actually have to raise interest rates to defend the dollar. That's one of the negative factors that's weighing on the market. That may also explain why the next chart is also showing signs of weakness, which is the Eurodollar market, the June Eurodollars. And when we look at Eurodollars, this is a measure of short-term rates. If we can move on to the second graph. June Eurodollars, we're down another 3 ticks today. Again, not a big move to the downside, but notice the general weakness. We are at a new low here, a new reaction low. We're trading at 95.24. And as I mentioned, I think aside from the fact that we've been in a downtrend for quite some time, the weakness in the dollar does kind of complicate the situation a little bit, because it does suggest some upward pressure on short-term rates. So the Eurodollar market showing absolutely no sign of a bounce here. And when Eurodollar prices go down, this means that yields are moving higher. Now, one of the problems that this creates for the bond market is that short-term rates, or the Eurodollar market, normally leads the bond market. So the inability of this area to bounce carry some negative implications for bonds. Now, again, notice that recent rally. Again, this is it's mislabeled here. This is a 40-day moving average. And why I put that on here is simply that a lot of traders use that as a support and resistance area. That notice in this recent rally, we moved right up to the moving average. We were not able to take it out. Now, last week, we took out some initial resistance at 106.06 in the June bond contract, and it had the look of a possible double bottom, but the market has moved back below that breakout point, which is a negative. We're down about 14 ticks today, almost half a cent, almost half a point. This is negative activity and does suggest a possible retest of those recent lows down around 103. So the bond market continuing to look very heavy here.
And all of this, traditional fundamentals would tell you that the dollar should strengthen with U.S. rates going up and European rates coming down and Japanese rates at least holding steady. It flies in the face of the tradition.
It really does, Dean. And I'm not suggesting that I can explain it. One of the other negatives of a falling dollar, by the way, is it makes American investments much less attractive to foreigners, which suggests that some foreign money may actually start to come out of the U.S. market. So if the central bank intervention doesn't work, and if the dollar continues to sell off here, it could create some more problems for the bond market.
One of the real catches in all of this is that the imports coming in become more expensive. Our appetite for imports hasn't seemed to have abated all that much, so all of a sudden we start getting another whiff of inflation, adding to the concerns.
Right. So. And just another market also, Dean, we always look at when we look at the bond market are the utilities.
Sure.
And let's come back. This is just a very short-term look at them. Again, we've often pointed out that the utilities tend to lead the bond market. Now notice here, this is just the last 30 days or so, but last week again it looked as if the utilities were turning higher here. We broke above some resistance at 198. Here again, we moved up to the moving average. We have not been able to take it out. We're down about 2 points today, so we're starting the week on a very soft note in the utilities. We're watching this market very closely here because if this rally does not hold, and if we take out last week's low around 196, that could also suggest a possible rally failure in the utilities, could also suggest maybe a move back to retest the lows. So the utilities also opening the week on a very soft note here, and we're watching this particular area very closely. And then, since we're talking about inflation, just something else to worry about here a little bit. We'll finish up with this, and this is the crude oil market, and you'll notice that this is something that we are beginning to monitor very closely because the oil market has turned up quite sharply. In fact, we're up over $3 since the March low, and notice we're up today over 30 cents. We're getting very close to a move to the upside. If oil can close, if this contract can close above $17.35, that would also move us above a gap that was formed several months ago and would give this chart a much more bullish look. So the last thing in the world the bond needs right now is strength in the oil market. So we're watching this market very closely as well.
And the oil stocks have, at the very least, been keeping pace with crude oil and in some cases leading it higher over the last couple of weeks.
Yes, the oil stocks have done very well over the last month, Dean. We've moved to the upper end of the trading range in the XOI index, and we're seeing a little profit taking today. But I think that if the oil market does continue to rally here, I think that this should be beneficial for those oil stocks.
So no bull yet on bonds.
No, we're kind of opening the week on a soft note here.
Thanks, John. John Murphy, our technical analyst. Well, some unemployed are finding they have to do some different things these days to get a paycheck. If you're looking for work, could these strategies work for you? We'll have details coming up.
This is CNBC.
It just opens up a whole world of opportunities.
It is a state-of-the-art way to make money today.
Introducing Investors Business Daily. It's the new voice in journalism, edited for America's business and investment community.
It's helped me make a lot of money.
Get 10 issues of Investor's Business Daily, plus the audio cassette 100 Ways to Improve Your Investment Results free.
It's a no-lose proposition.
It's an invaluable asset.
Call now. The cassette and the issues, a $25 value, are yours free.
How can you refuse something that's going to educate you, hopefully make you money, and you're going to give it to somebody?
You'll get business articles, graphs, and tables you won't find in the Wall Street Journal.
The paper provides information that obviously you can't get anywhere else.
It gives you a clearer direction of where the market is heading.
I recommend it to anybody who has an interest in the stock market.
Call now. Get 10 free issues and the tape, a $25 value, free.
It's the only paper that has ever made me money. Serious money.
Without the Investors Daily, people are going to have a very difficult time being successful.
There's millions of people out there who manage their own money. At Waterhouse, I think we are particularly proud that our commission rates are among the lowest of any nationwide discount broker. You take a trade of 200 shares at $25. Schwab will charge you $89. Fidelity charges $88.50. And Quick & Riley charges $60.50. Our commission is $35. That's a big difference.
See how much Waterhouse can save you. Call this number now for this free brochure.
Price may bring a lot of customers in the door of Waterhouse Securities, but what keeps them here is service. We can execute a market order within 3 to 6 seconds. We provide a free Standard & Poor's stock guide. We offer 500 to 600 no-load mutual funds. We're a member of the New York Stock Exchange. We have 57 offices around the country. We give them the price, we bring them in the door, and then we give them outstanding service.
Call this number for a free brochure comparing rates and services and start saving money now.
Investors, the place to find extraordinary wealth-building investments like these is the New Issues Market, and New Issues Outlook is the single most timely and comprehensive authority available. New Issues Outlook, published every 10 days, gives you incisive news and analysis of all new stock issues weeks before they go public. In each issue, you'll receive advanced full-page reports on every offering within days of its SEC filing, and recommendations on those offerings we rate highest and lowest. New Issues Outlook also helps you identify profit opportunities in the aftermarket, listing the biggest gainers and biggest losers every 10 days, and monitoring the performance of the latest 300 new stock issues, including exclusive price volume charts like these. You'll also receive our proprietary computerized performance rankings of every New Issues underwriter.
Call 800-765-1099 and try New Issues Outlook with a full money-back guarantee. As an added bonus, we'll rush our complete step-by-step guide to making money in new issues. That's 800-765-1099. Call now.
We told you a few minutes ago about job cuts at a GM plant and at a Neiman Marcus division. Meantime, there have been other layoff announcements today. Halliburton, the oil services company, says it will reduce its workforce by 1,200 in an effort to strengthen its financial position. And the home loan unit of Prudential Insurance says 600 of its workers will lose their jobs. Although some sectors of the job market continue to gain strength, many workers across the country are being forced to trade their paychecks for unemployment checks. As many of the jobless hunt for work, some are deciding the best way to move forward is to take a giant step backward. NBC's Noah Nelson explains.
Paying the bills. Hold off on that. A chore that forces Chuck and Debbie Hibbard to make some hard choices.
Hold off for a little bit.
As union factory workers making $17.50 an hour, the Hibbards thought they had it all. A nice house, a boat,
Put these on the grill.
security for their children, and jobs for life. But when the company they worked for 15 years downsized and laid them off, everything was in jeopardy.
When you see a business doing well and they're making a lot of money, you figure that you will be able to stay, you know, that your job is secure. But you don't ever know.
After surviving on unemployment benefits for a few months, they found new, lower-wage jobs. The Hibbards are workers in transition. Like many others in this country, they are struggling to maintain a middle-class standard of living. The Hibbards live in Muskegon, a western Michigan town where once industrial jobs paying good wages were plentiful. Here in Muskegon, agencies like the Michigan Employment Commission and the Chamber of Commerce are helping people find new jobs to keep their lives afloat.
Most people don't go under. Most people learn to cope and figure they've got to learn to cope because they have those kids, they have those houses, they have those VCRs and those boats they want to support, and that they want that quality of life.
But at this point, the Hibberts are worried about the future. Their weekend boat is for sale. Even more frightening, they may have to sell their house.
Come on, Nick!
With their wages but not their lifestyle cut in half, they've gone from having money in the bank to living paycheck to paycheck.
How are you going to make house payments, pay your bills, provide clothing for your children, get your groceries on $8 an hour or $6 an hour? People can't live on that.
Their daughter, 18-year-old Heather, is working to help out. She sees education as the way to avoid the trap her parents are in.
That, of course, would be Andrew Johnson.
Heather's goal is a white-collar career. She has learned that in the new American workplace, jobs no longer last a lifetime. A reality that her parents have painfully just come to understand. Noah Nelson, NBC News, Muskegon, Michigan.
Well, some food for thought in today's stocks to watch. Hamburger chain Wendy's says it earned 12 cents a share in the first quarter, right in line with expectations and 2 cents above the year-ago net. Wendy's shares are up an eighth today at 18 1/8. If your taste runs more to pancakes, first quarter earnings at IHOP, the international house of pancakes, surged 57% to 24 cents a share in the first quarter. That's 2 cents above estimates, and the stock is up 2 1/8 on the news at 32 and heavy volume. More news from the healthcare sector, meanwhile. In addition to the merger involving Hoffman LaRoche and Syntex, Columbia HCA Healthcare is now trading down 3/4 at 41 5/8. The company says first quarter net dropped to 13 cents a share after a charge. That's down from 65 cents a year ago. And shares of drug maker Alpha Beta Technology are plunging 9 1/2 down to 12. Alex Brown downgraded the stock to a buy from a strong buy. Separately, the firm says it will begin trials of its beta-fectin drug by the end of this year. And shares of IBM down 7/8 at 58 1/8. The company's PC unit is undergoing a management reshuffling following the announcement that President Robert Corrigan is retiring. Separately, Big Blue is planning several major product announcements this week, including tomorrow's relaunch of its AS400 mainframe. Well, meantime, one stock that is worth watching as well is Exxon. It's down 1 1/8 today at 61 3/4. 10,000 Alaska fishermen and property owners are taking the giant oil company to court today, seeking $1.5 billion in compensation and $15 billion in punitive damages. The Alaskans contend the 1989 Exxon Valdez accident, which allowed 11 million gallons of oil to spill into Prince William Sound, damaged their livelihood and their culture. Exxon has already spent several $1 billion on cleanup, fines, and restitution, but many Alaskans say life has not returned to normal. NBC's Bruce Hall brings us up to date.
It all started just over 5 years ago when the Exxon Valdez ran aground in Alaska, unleashing an ocean of crude and the worst oil spill in U.S. history. The shoreline has been sprayed and cleaned as Exxon spent more than $2 billion cleaning up Prince William Sound and another $1 billion for restoration. Fishing was the economic lifeblood of Prince William Sound, but the fishermen claim the spill ruined their once vital industry, forcing them to keep their boats tied up at the dock, fighting to avoid bankruptcy.
It's not just one fishery. No. It's all the fisheries that are in Prince William Sound have went south since this oil spill. It doesn't take a genius to figure out it's related to the oil spill.
The Houston-based Exxon Corporation refuses comment on the claims, but is expected to vigorously fight every claim in court. The fishermen say it has been an environmental disaster for them.
There's no crab, there's no shrimp. In harvestable numbers, there's nothing left.
And each year, I keep saying, well, it can't get any worse. It can't get any worse. And hey, I quit saying that.
Some of the birds, such as the bald eagles, have returned to Prince William Sound, but their return, like this trial, may be very slow. With more than 600 witnesses, the case is expected to take all summer. Meanwhile, environmentalists believe a complete recovery of the rich but fragile Alaska environment may still be decades away. Bruce Hall, NBC News.
Well, if you think a will is the best way to ensure your heirs get the most out of your estate, you may be wrong. Learn about other alternatives like living trusts next on Money Talk with Ted David. If you have a question about estate planning, give us a call at 1-800-752-CNBC. That's 1-800-752-2622 for Money Talk.
This is CNBC.
That other long-distance company says they have proof they'll save your business big money over AT&T on international calls. But cut through their proof and you may not be so positive. You see, they're not comparing similar calling plans, and they give you an extra discount on only 2 numbers, while AT&T gives you an extra discount on a whole country. So next time they show you proof of big savings, remember there are holes in their argument. For the whole story, call us. Let AT&T work for you.
They started by shipping tires in 1930 and have been moving steadily ever since. Today, they ship cargo to all 50 states and 48 countries overseas. And with an annual revenue of over $4 billion, Roadway Services is one of the few select companies in the Dow Jones Transportation Average. Where do you find companies that keep moving? Actually, there's a list of them printed every day. NASDAQ, the stock market for the next 100 years.
What do you know about your stocks right now?
I thought I knew all about the market until I bought some stock and lost some money.
Some of my stocks are going nowhere. What do I do?
I was told my stocks would keep up with the market, but they aren't. Why?
Here's the answer. Value Line's Investors Reference Library with 1,700 full-page stock reports, each featuring Value Line's rank for price performance. Value Line has been ranking stocks in this manner for more than 25 years with these outstanding results. This entire reference library is yours as a bonus with your subscription to Value Line's weekly stock reports to keep your information current. For only $55, Value Line will keep you up to date for the next 10 weeks. Only $55.
I was told my stocks would bloom, but they're dying. Why?
Get the answers. Call 800-472-7753 for your bonus Value Line Investors Library and 10 weeks of crucial Value Line updates. Call now, and you'll also get Every Investor's Guide to Wall Street Words as an extra bonus. That's 800-472-7753. Call now.
Hi there and welcome to Money Talk. I'm Ted David. When it comes to estate planning, many people think a will is enough, but our next guest says a revocable living trust is a better alternative in many cases. He's Stevens Castleman, an attorney specializing in estate planning. He joins us here in our studios today. And if you have a question regarding estate planning, good time to call 1-800-752-CNBC. That's 1-800-752-2622. Good to see you again.
And good to see you, sir.
For the uninitiated, and every day we get new viewers, so let's just run through the drill one time here in terms of the differences between wills and trusts.
Okay. Basically, a will is, in essence, a piece of paper that takes you through the court system that will dispose of your assets. Living trust is a different, think of it as a will substitute. That's a contractual arrangement that allows you to go pass assets as a result of merely the agreement and not any intervention with the court system.
All right, and all this falls under the category or the umbrella of estate planning.
Yes.
Most people, you say, don't do any estate planning?
70% of the population in the U.S. do nothing, leaving it either to the intestacy laws of the respective states or maybe using joint ownership as a way of doing things.
Let's scare some folks here. Tell me a horror story of dying intestate. What could happen?
Besides assets being tied up, assets going to the wrong person, typically what the thing we worry about is a husband and wife who will have some assets and have children, and minor children, and the husband, statistically the one to die first. Right. The husband will die without a will. The children, who may be very easily minor children, are in for roughly, in many states, half of the estate. And so we'll have a court-appointed guardian ad litems to represent the children. And the intent was to have the wife have the money so that she could use it.
One would think that those monies, was the legal term, would devise to the wife automatically.
Right, but that's not the case.
Now, in New York, you know me, I love to throw around the terms with the Estates Powers Trust Law, for example, which I think mediates these things. Doesn't everything automatically go to the wife?
No.
Who then? No.
No. If it's the wife, if there are no children, and if there are children, it is one half to the wife and one half to the children, without getting too specific, but that's a general.
And the mother of these children, the wife of the deceased, would not necessarily be the guardian of those monies?
Not necessarily. More than likely, there would be a court-appointed guardian ad litem, and there would be reporting back to the court and so forth.
So the way to avoid that, then, is to have a will, certainly.
That's the start. And specifically for the naming of the guardian of the children, forget the property of the children. Definitely, that's one of the things we do use the will for.
Now, where does the will begin to fall short, and why do you feel that some kind of a trust would be even better?
The will falls short, to use your words, first because it is a death instrument only. And one of the things, especially with older people, we have to worry about is disability. And we don't really have a very strong vehicle in the law to help with all of the issues associated with disability. Whereas a living trust will, in fact, be able to help the trustees plan for the use of the assets for the person who is under a disability. So that's the first area. And secondly, I'll leave it to the AARP, who really has a very lengthy study on probate, and in its nicer phrases say that probate is an anachronism. It really is something that is no longer necessary in the world that we live in today.
All right,
there are other vehicles.
Let's take a call here. Jeffrey in New York, hi.
Hello. My question is about if you have an estate in excess of $600,000 and you want to protect it from taxation when you pass away, it seems that the insurance seems to be the only cost to take. And yet insurance brokers and companies will give you these projections on how to protect your estate. How reliable is that really?
Well, let's answer both questions that I didn't hear. One that I didn't hear. The question is, what do we do for the estate for the single individual over $600,000, or for the married couple that's over $1.2 million? That's the federal exemption equivalent of what we can pass tax-free to other people, at least as it stands today. There are a number of techniques that are available for individuals. Typically, one of the things that we do see is insurance used as what's called prepaid estate planning, or estate taxes. That is, you can buy life insurance at the 15 cents on the dollar, and what you have to do then is use it in conjunction with an irrevocable life insurance trust, because insurance on its own, held by you, is part of your taxable estate. So we use a life insurance trust. As to the projections that they offer you, they'll typically say there are guarantees on insurance policies, and then there are projections, and it's very much a matter. Most of these people really do know their business and are trying to help you through it. But there are other techniques as well, such as charitable trusts, where you can give assets away and change how assets are held in income-related things. And something that you may have seen recently in the New York Times was an article on family limited partnerships, which deals with an issue of how you can revalue and really discount the value of an estate because of the underlying laws and so forth.
I want to take another call, but I want to get into who needs to worry about this. Unless you're the Vanderbilts, do you really have to worry? But let's talk to Richard in California first. Hi, Richard.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you for taking my call and letting me speak to your guest. I would like some information. I'm a single renter. And I don't have life insurance because I would imagine if I die, no one else is responsible for my bills. But I don't know if I need a trust or a will, because I do have some assets, and quite a few in mutual funds and personal possessions. And I'm not quite sure where everything would go if I should pass on.
Stay on the line for a minute. He may have to ask you a question or two.
I can actually go right to it. If I can, without a will or a trust, I can tell you exactly where it would go. And I would look to the California laws of intestacy. And in California, it would say either to a parent or to a child or some combination thereof, depending on the people who are alive at your death. And in order to get it through them, we would have to go through an intestacy proceeding, so that we would need to have a court-appointed person, probably a family member, but who knows, to go through and move your assets through the probate system.
Lengthy?
Yes.
Expensive?
Yes. Some of the numbers that are quoted, do you need this or so forth, there is an expected wealth transfer of somewhere between $7 and $10 trillion in the next generation. Those are the ranges that are being used. And some of the figures quoted say as much as 10% of that will be lost to the process of transferring it.
Okay, so basically Richard needs to do something.
Yes.
Get a will.
Get a trust.
Something. Get something. All right.
Don't do anything.
Mike in Wisconsin, hi.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ted, I enjoy your program.
Thank you.
My question is POD, payable upon death. I have been stewarding my mother's funds in excess of $250,000 since 1985 to preclude probate. Does this POD stand up against probate and against any definition in the wills?
Generally, the answer to that is yes. The way you're describing it, I'm assuming that your mother does not have, your father is not alive, so we don't have what are called rights of election. But by and large, it's exactly what it says. Pay on death, this is the person who's to be the recipient. It doesn't help you on taxes, but it does have a direct payment.
When we talk about wills versus trusts, is there some dollar parameter that you ought to keep in mind? I would suspect that some folks think, well, I don't have much of an estate, I don't need a trust. Is that true? And if so, how much money do you have to have at stake before you go from will to trust?
Well, let me offer it in a different way. If you want to be very base and talk about money, probably you're talking from a net dollar effect somewhere at around $150,000 to $200,000 is where it begins to pay for itself on finances. But the real value of a trust is you're talking about a document that can contain emotional content. And it's, for lots of reasons, a little bit more difficult to, in a will, state some of the things that a person might like to say in terms of disposing of assets and why they make decisions, because it's a public document, it's a filed document, and you can hurt a lot of feelings if you do want to do that. Trust is a very private document. No one has access to it except the trustee, and as a result, you can make much more emotive-laden statements to the beneficiaries.
Can you circumvent, by using a trust, certain people? I know, for example, the old deal about leaving somebody $1 so that they can't claim that you forgot about them and contest the will. Does a trust alleviate, for example, those kinds of concerns? Can you cut people out of your estate if you want to, without anyone raising questions as to why?
Yes.
Okay.
That was a tough one to say yes to, Ted. But
let's talk to Virginia in Missouri. Hi.
Hi. Thank you very much for taking my call. My question is, my husband and I are, my husband has a substantial IRA as a result of a lump sum distribution in lieu of a pension, and I am the beneficiary, and our ages are like 73 and 70. But I'm wondering if we could change the beneficiary to our sons, whose ages are, you know, like 40 and down, and that would benefit us estate-wise. Is that possible now that we're already taking distributions?
With an IRA, you make an irrevocable election at 70 and a half. And that's the point at which you have to make your election. The best that you can do, though, with an IRA payout, just as a side issue, if you're not yet 70 and a half, is what's called the person who is eligible to be named as a beneficiary other than yourself as your husband. You only get a elongated payout by an additional 10 years. So sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't. But you're not really going to use that to avoid estate taxes, and it may do a little bit of minimization of income taxes.
So is there really a percentage in her transferring this to...
she's made the irrevocable election at this point, her husband and she have made it, but at this point...
Oh, irrevocable, so that's the answer.
Right,
No.
70 and a half is when you have to make your election.
Anything else in particular, real quickly, we have less than a minute left here, in terms of just saving some bucks in terms of taxes, charitable giving, for example, or charitable remainder trust? Or
right. The question is, what are the techniques you use for estate tax planning as opposed to estate planning? Knowing we're going to give it and whom we're going to give it to, now we say, how can we maximize the wealth? And how can we keep Uncle Sam as not our single biggest benefactor in a New York Uncle Mario? And that really has to do with understanding the underlying nature of the assets. For example, if you have highly appreciated assets, charitable trusts are a vehicle. If you have family-owned businesses and we're worried about rules of attribution, we can look at family limited partnerships. Where control is a major issue, family limited partnerships work. So it very much depends upon the needs of the individual. It's a custom build for every client, and usually you find yourself mixing and matching among a variety of the techniques.
Got to leave it there. Good to have you again. Thanks for joining us.
Ted.
We've been speaking with attorney Stevens Castleman. We want to remind you the advice given on Money Talk comes from our guest, not the network. If you thought mortgage rates dropped last week, you might be surprised to hear what we found out in today's real estate tip. We'll have that for you. And this special programming note, a special taping of CNBC's Rivera Live set to begin in about 20 minutes. If you have questions for Daryl Gates, former chief of the LAPD, as that city marks the 2nd anniversary of the devastating riots, you can call now. 1-800-745-CNBC. That's 1-800-745-2622. Dean will be back with more Money Wheel in just a moment.
Today's Money Talk, brought to you in part by the Franklin Templeton Group, which currently manages over $100 billion in assets.
Look at this. If you have an IRA account, or if you're thinking of opening one, consider this. Only Oldie Discount Stockbrokers offers an IRA with no startup fee, no annual fees, and your first stock trade commission-free. And only Oldie offers an IRA with Smart Trade, Oldie's exclusive account that lets you trade stocks commission-free. So if you'd like to keep more of your IRA working for you, transfer your account to Oldie, America's full-service discount broker.
Is this what you think of when you hear lasers? When you should be thinking of this? Hi, I'm George Danis, Vice President and Manager of Montana Securities Wall Street office. Did you know that Excel Technology is one of the fastest growing laser companies in the world today? Excel is the industry leader in lasers for semiconductor mask repair, with the largest market share worldwide. Now that's impressive. Excel's management has taken laser technology to exciting new levels of revenue growth. I really like Excel Technology. To find out if this is the investment opportunity you've been looking for, please call Montana Securities Wall Street office for a free copy of our research report on Excel Technology. Call 1-800-608-8599. That's 1-800-608-8599. Montana Securities is a member of NASD SIPC.
Welcome back to the Money Wheel. It's about 15.5 minutes before the hour, and time to take a look at the action in the credit markets so far today. Treasury prices sliding a bit further, rattled a bit by the National Association of Purchasing Management's report out earlier today. It showed the index was up 1% in April. This is more sign of strength in the manufacturing economy, and one of the first real reads we've had on the state of the economy during April. Employment rose by about 3% in this latest NAPM report, but the report's closely watched measure of commodity prices did fall slightly. It was down 1%, so that's a mild positive for the bond market. But the market's been under so much downside pressure recently, it's going to take more than that, the commodity price report, to turn this overall negative trend. Also a concern, as John Murphy and I just discussed in Tech Talk, is the state of the dollar. Even though it is showing some stability today, the dollar is broadly lower in the past couple of weeks. So let's go to the boards and get you caught up on the latest in the credit markets to this hour. Fed funds at 3 7/8, right around the perceived target level of 3 3/4. The 3-month is up 5 basis points. The 6-month up 7 basis points. The 1-year up 5 basis points. On to the intermediate term, the 2-year is down 5/30 seconds, the yield at 5.80, the 5-year off 11/30 seconds, now at 6.70, and the 10-year down 18/30 seconds, the yield coming up to 7.12% on the 10-year, And the long Treasury bond is down 21/32, so off its worst levels of the day, but still down at 86 and 21/32. The yield at 7.36%, so we're awfully close to the recent highs on yields. Mortgage rates dropped last week, but did lending costs really decline? Details on what that means for home buyers coming up next. Stay tuned to the Money Wheel.
This is CNBC.
I don't sell houses, I sell dreams.
Why would 9 out of 10 customers recommend Century 21 to their friends?
It's a large organization, but it's also as personal as me and you.
Century 21, rated #1.
Imagine having a direct line to the stock market where you can get up-to-the-minute information on your portfolio, check the latest financial news, and make better-informed investment decisions right in your home or office. Introducing AllQuotes, the affordable, real-time stock quote alternative. For about the cost of a newspaper, AllQuotes gives you online access to all the major exchanges directly on your PC. All you need is our software and a modem to get started. Call now for a free 5-day trial. 1-800-4QUOTES. That's 1-800-367-5968.
Here's an update on Laser Friendly Incorporated, the Toronto Stock Exchange-listed company that's innovative, dynamic, aggressive, and profitable. As the gaming industry remains one of the strongest performing sectors of the stock market, Laser Friendly continues to be its fastest-growing supplier of printing materials in Canada. Sales for 1992 increased an amazing 40%. Earnings per share rose 53%. Net income increased 228%. Reported net profits for the first 9 months of 1993 climbed to $2.3 million, an astounding 490%. And 1994 is becoming a banner year. Specializing in lucrative niche markets, Laser Friendly's recent $20 million contract with one of Canada's largest lottery corporations is now in full production. And Laser Friendly has just entered into a 3-year agreement worth $165 million in projected revenues with Bull HN Information Systems. Bull is one of the world's leading technology companies with $5 billion in annual revenues. Laser Friendly, growing profitably with U.S. expansion ahead. For more information and a free corporate brochure, call this toll-free number now.
I'll never stop until I get your home sold.
Why should you call 1-800-4HOUSES?
That would go through hell and high water for a customer.
Go home and tell Mom and Dad we're going to get you a nice house.
Century 21, rated #1.
Hi, I'm Bob Smith, but you probably remember me by this.
Howdy, boys and girls, howdy! Say, kids, what time is it?
Some things have changed over the years, but not the meaning of value. And that's why when I trade stocks, I use AccuTrade. You see, with AccuTrade, I pay only 3 cents a share commission, regardless of the price of the stock. And get this, all I need is a touch-tone phone or a personal computer, and I can enter orders and get quotes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now that's what I call value. Look at the last statement from your full commission broker. Compare those extra charges. They add up. Hey, I used to work with a full commission broker, but then again, I used to work with a dummy.
You only need $5,000 to open and maintain your account. The minimum charge is just $48. Call today to connect with AccuTrade, member SIPC.
Today's real estate tip sponsored by the Century 21 system. When you want the best, discover the power of #1.
Mortgage rates dropped last week, or did they? CNBC real estate correspondent Bob Pisani finds that what the market giveth, the market sometimes taketh away.
A little bit of a breather for home shoppers last week. The national average for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage dropped nearly a fifth of a point to 8.32%. The 15-year adjustable-rate mortgage also dropped to 7.85%. And the one-year adjustable-rate mortgage rose nearly a tenth of a point to 5.15%. However, a backup in interest rates at the end of last week has erased all of those gains, and concern over inflation is still present and will probably prevent any further decrease in long-term rates, particularly since the Fed is expected to raise short-term rates one more time by May 17th. Now, one notable movement here, the spread between the one-year ARM and the 30-year mortgage was the highest it's been in years very recently, about 3.5 points. That's made adjustable rate mortgages very attractive, but that spread is narrowing somewhat this week to just 3.17%. That's still far wider than it used to be, and for the moment, there's no doubt lenders will continue to push adjustable rate mortgages. I'm Bob Pisani with today's real estate tip.
And here's a look at this hour's winners and losers. American Express is better by a half to 30 1/8. The travel services and credit card company announcing the details of its planned Lehman Brothers spinoff. American Express shareholders will get 1 Lehman share for every 5 Amex shares they hold as of May 20th, with Amex issuing a total of 98.3 million Lehman shares. Fisher Imaging slipping 1 3/8 down to 3 7/8. The rating of the maker of X-ray imaging systems cut to reasonably priced from Accumulate, that is, at Piper Jaffray, amid weaker than expected first quarter earnings. On Friday, the Denver-based company reported earnings of just 2 cents a share, down 2 cents from the year-ago period. And finally, IVAX is falling 6 3/4 to 17.5 after being halted earlier today. The generic drug maker says its net income rose 3 cents to 25 cents a share in the latest quarter. That is well below analysts' expectations. Well, if health care reform is coming, who's going to be paying? In his weekly commentary, NBC chief economics correspondent Irving R. Levine says there's a growing consensus that American taxpayers will be footing the bill.
It should have come as no surprise. Finally, we learn how the health care program proposed by President Clinton and now making its way through Congress will really be paid for. We were originally told that it could be financed through an additional tax on cigarettes, plus a contribution by employers to their workers' insurance, and by shifting some Medicare funds around. This rather limited financing would be sufficient, the White House claimed, because there would be great cost savings from new efficiencies in the nation's health care system. Now it turns out, as many may have suspected, there's another shoe to drop, and it's called a tax increase. Congressman Dan Rostenkowski, who is a key player in formulating health care legislation, broke the inevitable news, declaring that tens of billions of dollars in new taxes will be needed to pay for the kind of health care overhaul sought by President Clinton. In a display of frankness not usually associated with congressional proposals for tax increases, Rostenkowski said, quote, "We're not going to find that kind of money by looking for a secret budget category labeled waste, fraud, and abuse," unquote. Rostenkowski, who heads the Tax Writing Ways and Means Committee, refused to say which taxes he would propose raising, but he appeared to have the personal income tax in mind. So, steel yourself. As someone once said, if you think health care is expensive now, just wait until it's free. Irving R. Levine, NBC News, Washington.
As I mentioned a few minutes ago, bond prices are slumping further today, though oil is rebounding. The dollar holding fairly steady after the damage done last week. The stocks are a little bit higher, and the CRB index is a little changed today. Let's go to the futures boards and get you caught up on all the action so far today. And taking one last look this hour at the Dow, the industrials are currently up 17.25 points, but winners and losers are just about dead even on turnover of 194 million shares. Well, CNBC financial correspondent Dan Dorfman broke the story today of the $5 billion takeout of biotech concern Syntex. Details on the merger and the surge in Syntex stock up next as the Money Wheel continues with Bill Griffith and Neil Cavuto. In the meantime, for my colleague Sue Herrera, I'm Dean Shepard. Stay tuned to the Money Wheel.
Tonight, it's a whole new way to look at today's tough issues. Emmy Award-winning journalist Geraldo Rivera with hard-hitting news, hard-hitting talk. Rivera live on CNBC.
Individual investors need information, in-depth, accurate, and timely. Now, CNBC brings you individual investor information. Call our toll-free number for special services like the CNBC Investor Facts. Brings price history charts, stock and industry reports, and more to your fax in minutes. The Corporate Earnings Estimates Hotline, a fundamental stock valuation tool only a phone call away. The CNBC Insight Newsletter with analysis from CNBC anchors and reporters and crucial advice from industry experts. Also, get stock quotes and the latest report from CNBC's own Dan Dorfman. And find out about new products, upcoming events, and seminars hosted by CNBC anchors and financial experts. Get the information you need in time to make it work for you. CNBC's Individual Investor Information. For a free guide, call 1-800-678-CNBC now and keep watching CNBC, first in business.
I don't know how you do it, Walter. Look at this mess. I just can't run my business and keep up with all this reading. Most of it's a waste. Who cares about sea monster sightings in Huron, Ohio? I don't have time for all that fluff, but I can't afford not to keep up on the real business news and what's happening in the financial markets.
This is how I do it, Joe. Investors Business Daily. In about 12 minutes every morning, I find out everything I need to know about business, the economy, and the stock markets. Most of it's information I can't find anywhere else. That's why I don't bother with these Wall Street papers anymore. Investors Business Daily. It's my first read of the day. Maybe you should try it too, Joe.
If you're a busy executive on the move, why don't you try Investors Business Daily? Learn why thousands of smart business people are switching every day. Call now and get 2 free weeks. That's 10 issues for free. Plus, you'll receive a free audio tape. Call now, 1-800-733-9300. That's 1-800-733-9300. Investors Business Daily, your first read of the business day.
Welcome to this hour of the Money Wheel, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto.
And I'm Bill Griffith. We will check news headlines in about 5 minutes. First, in the business world, in trading today, Syntex shares have surged 57% on the heels of that multi-billion-dollar buyout deal announced today. As we first reported by our financial correspondent Dan Dorfman, Hoffman LaRoche says it will buy Syntex. LaRoche says it will pay $24 a share cash for Syntex stock in a deal valued at about $5.3 billion. Syntex stock right now is up 8.5 to 23 5/8. That is near the purchase price, obviously, 57% higher than Friday's close. In about half hour, Syntex will be holding a telephone conference with analysts. Our market correspondent Hillary Johnson will be listening in. She will update us with the latest details as they become available.
Well, another drug company, Ivax, is taking a pounding today on disappointing first quarter earnings. The stock right now is down 7 3/8 to 16 7/8. Ivax posting quarterly results at 25 cents a share, up from last year, but 7 cents below estimates. Paine-Webber promptly downgraded the stock to neutral from a buy. Ivax had been the only company to make the verapamil heart drug. It now faces competition from Zenith. And biotech company Alpha Beta Technology stock also on the downside substantially, off now 9 1/4 to 12 1/4. It is one of the most active issues on the NASDAQ. Alpha Beta stock plummeting on concerns that it will delay introduction of an infection treatment for high-risk surgery patients.
Meantime, corporate America continues to downsize. Upscale retailer Neiman Marcus says it will close up to 50 of its Contempo casual stores and cut 1,000 jobs. The cuts are part of Neiman's already $48 million plan to restructure. The retailer says the Contempo has been plagued with disappointing results due to a lack of new fashion trends. Neiman Marcus shares so far today are down an eighth at 15 1/4. Halliburton is up a quarter, though, at 29 7/8. That company says it will cut 1,200 jobs as part of its cost-cutting plans. Halliburton saying the cuts should begin to benefit the company in the second half of this year.
Well, for the third trading day in a row, bond yields are on the rise again. U.S. Treasury prices are continuing last week's fall off as a weak dollar and increased manufacturing activity reinforced concerns about inflation. The 30-year bond right now trading at 7.36%. It's down nearly 3/4 of a point. It's priced at 86 22/32. Now, bonds extended early morning losses after the nation's purchasing managers reported their April index rose to 57.7, signaling that the economy is continuing to expand. Results were also higher than expected. Federal Reserve Vice Chairman nominee Alan Blinder says that the U.S. must be wary of rising inflation. Speaking today on American Public Radio, Blinder said that while the economy has not reached the point where economic growth must be reined in to avoid inflation, we're getting close. But Blinder also says that market concerns on inflation are greatly exaggerated. Reports on construction spending also supported the idea that the economy is picking up steam. Commerce Department reports that spending bounced back in March after severe winter weather. Construction spending rose a smaller than expected 0.8% after falling 1% the previous month.
Falling bond prices have put some pressure on the dollar so far today. Trading is thin with the London markets closed for a national holiday there. But for the 7th day in a row, the dollar has slipped against the German mark, falling below the level at which the Fed intervened in the currency markets just last Friday. Traders say the sentiment remains bearish on the dollar, but fear of more dollar supportive intervention by the Federal Reserve is keeping selling contained for now.
We're kind of at a, in a calm right now, but we've been following a strong yen policy. The U.S. has been for the last year, so I'm not sure the markets will be so easily turned. I think we're calm now, but we're going to see possible testing of the downside again in the future.
Here's what the dollar's doing right now, up a quarter yen, I should say, to 101.74, and it was a little below that where the dollar, where they did intervene against the yen the other day. We're down almost half a pfennig against the Deutsche market, 164.88 to the dollar, and down against the British pound at $1.51.90 to the pound.
Okay, meanwhile, U.S. stocks are a bit mixed at this hour, but the Dow is getting a boost from some of those aforementioned drug shares sparked by La Roche's buyout of Syntex. Let's take a look now at the market scoreboards and see where we stand. We've got the Dow up about 16 points. It gained 33 last week, as you know, so that gives it a 5-day advance because of the Nixon abbreviated session Wednesday, or halted session, of about 50 points. The transports down about 12 after gaining about 4% in value, or 65 points last week. Utilities down 2 points at 197.40. Elsewhere today, the NYSE Composite up 1/3 of a point, 196 million shares changing hands. Market breadth at this hour has been usually dominating the declining issues. Still the case right now, although close. 657 issues unchanged. Broader market averages are mixed right now, with the S&P and NASDAQ both up. We've got the Amex, though, down.
One stock sinking today is Caesars World. Right now, its shares are down 4.5 to 44 1/8. The hotel and casino operator saying today it expects earnings in its fiscal third quarter to fall between 42 and 50 cents a share from 69 cents last year. The company attributes the reduced earnings to increased costs. The new estimate is way below the 76 cents a share that Wall Street had been looking for as well.
Okay, taking a look now at some of the other stories in the news. A Michigan jury has found Dr. Jack Kevorkian not guilty of violating the state's ban on assisted suicides. Kevorkian says that his innocent verdict may prompt other doctors to now publicly support his efforts. South African President F.W. de Klerk, meanwhile, has conceded defeat in his country's first ever all-race elections. And the PLO's top negotiator says that talks with Israel on Palestinian autonomy are almost complete now. The two sides are set to sign a final accord on Wednesday. You're up to date. More stories in the news in about 30 minutes. Well, in the world of TV entertainment, horror and creep shows are big sell.
Look at the success of Business Insiders. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. That'll be enough. But one company may be out to prove it can go in another direction and still make profits. Next on View from the Top.
Jack White and Company offers the most comprehensive no-transaction fee service with more than 350 no-load and low-load mutual funds from dozens of prominent families. No other discounter, not even Charles Schwab, offers a more comprehensive program. Plus, Jack White and Company's mutual fund network offers an additional 600 no-load and low-load mutual funds with a nominal transaction fee. In fact, it's the lowest transaction fee schedule in the industry today. So, when compared with other discounters, there's really no comparison. Altogether, Jack White & Company's mutual fund network offers over 2,400 mutual funds, including more than 350 at no transaction fee, making it the most extensive mutual fund service available to investors. Call 1-800-431-3500 to receive more information about Jack White & Company's mutual fund network. Now open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with personalized service. Jack White & Company, serving investors for over 20 years.
As a young man, he fought against prejudice and poverty. He's won and lost a few battles, but he was never afraid to take chances, never afraid to push his dreams to the edge. He's had some highs and lows over the years and the scars to prove it. Some of you may like him, and some of you may not. Today, Rivera's matured. He's a husband, a father, a local community activist, and an experienced journalist. Give him a shot. He's earned it. Rivera Live, only on CNBC.
Hi, I'm Dick Clark. Here's the most exciting, revolutionary, and lasting gift for any special occasion I've ever seen. It's the Ultimate Gift Certificate. The Ultimate Gift Certificate is the ultimate way to say I love you at weddings, anniversaries, confirmations, the birth of a child, or to say I care enough to give you a gift of real financial value to friends, employees, even charity. You can give $50,000 to $5 million Ultimate Gift Certificates at amazing prices. Matter of fact, I bought the first one because there's no other gift like it for any special occasion. The Ultimate Gift Certificate program was developed by Barry K. Associates and is backed by a life insurance policy underwritten by American General Life Insurance Company of Houston, Texas, one of the highest-rated insurance companies in America. In New York, it's American General Life Insurance Company of New York in Syracuse. For more information on the Ultimate Gift Certificate, please call Barry K. Associates at 1-800-977-GIFT.
Today's View from the Top, sponsored by Barry K. Associates, America's foremost estate tax cost discount specialist.
Welcome back, everybody. You have probably heard of Tales from the Dark Side, Creepshow, and Stephen King's Pet Sematary. Now, those hugely successful television and feature film productions have one man in common. His name is Richard Rubinstein, and he is currently the head of the Laurel Entertainment, a major film and TV production company, which is out to prove it has more to offer than just horror or creep shows. Mr. Rubinstein joins us right now on View from the Top. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Horror sells, doesn't it?
I think it's always been a staple good within the genres of entertainment that have long satisfied an audience. I used to say drive-in summers were the good example. Today you can see that kind of material virtually anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. But this is a risky venture, what you're taking on right now, this new Stephen King 8-hour miniseries based on The Stand,
yes,
which has actually been out for quite a while.
Well, the book was first published in 1978, and the book was Steve King's best-selling book cumulatively of all time.
That's right. Quite an epic, too.
And yes, it's Steve's version of War and Peace, so to speak. But it was reissued in 1989, became a bestseller all over again.
When he added more to it.
He added back some of the pages that they had edited out in the first edition. But it certainly has captured attention. I think it was selling something in the order of 200,000 copies a year as a backlist book, which most authors would give their careers for the first time round.
Incredible.
ABC and my parent company, Spelling Entertainment, which is controlled by Blockbuster, both made significant financial commitments to the show. And it's probably the most expensive television to be done since War and Remembrance.
It's $28 million. Is that figure right?
Yes, that's pretty close.
Yeah.
That's pretty close. It's economic for us because we get a tremendous amount of additional support from the foreign community as well as the home video values that are created by the platform, which is the initial marketing on ABC.
I got you. Now, this was originally bandied about to be a 6-hour miniseries. Now, did you and Mr. King, Stephen King, the author, push for 8 hours?
Well, I think that what Steve did was we gave ABC the option once they were given the first draft script to reduce it to 6. We felt that it more than filled 8. And in fact, I've seen a recent review that said that we left out a couple of things at 8 hours.
Amazing. Now, you never talked to anyone at CNBC, I guess, the business genre. That wasn't quite right yet. Right?
No. I think that we can have that conversation.
Because we have plenty of horror stories to relate here.
No, and also I think that one of the things that Blockbuster and Spelling have brought to Laurel are the resources that have allowed us to diversify our product line. We also produced this year a television movie called The Vernon John Story, which starred James Earl Jones.
That's right.
And both was critically and ratings-wise a big success, and overseas won 4 awards at Monte Carlo at the Television Festival. And Laurel is really a boutique operation.
But is that by design?
Yes, very much so. I think that our senior management at both Spelling and Blockbuster recognize that small units have certain attributes that are very, very desirable in terms of being entrepreneurial and light on their feet. And big units have advantages also.
But the small units can make very big mistakes. Not that you have yet, but there's a lot riding on the stand right now.
Yes.
At a time when many miniseries, as I'm sure you're aware, are being scaled back. You've seen the publicity lately with The Oldest Living Confederate Widow. 4 hours now, that's all it is, when there was talk that it was originally might be as much as 8 hours. Texas, a 10-hour project that has shrunk to about 4 hours. What does that tell you? Why are you bucking the trend?
Well, I think that we have good material. I think that Steve King is
it's a downer, isn't it?
No, I don't believe so. I believe that there's a certain degree of optimism that is actually prevalent through the whole story.
Well, I don't want to give away the story, but the premise is pretty much a whole lot of people die of a disease going rampant.
Yes, it is the apocalypse. However, from the ashes rises some very positive situations. And so, no, I wouldn't say that it's a downer in that fashion. I think that it definitely casts a spell on where we're going.
Right. Now, I only say downer in a corporate sense as well. If you're looking for broad-based corporate support, let's say you want a General Foods or some big name to back you,
well,
doesn't it look less likely if, for example, the presentation, whatever happens in the end, is a pretty depressing miniseries?
Well, I don't think that it is pretty depressing at all, actually. I think it's rather up in spots.
However, I read the book. A big chunk of the world dies.
Yes. However, the people that survive, represent a very positive perspective. I would say that my experience with Pet Sematary, where everyone said you have a down ending, and that will drive audiences away, would be the exact opposite. And we're all in business, and so are our advertisers. And I don't think the down endings, and The Stand actually has an up ending, I don't think the down endings necessarily mean bad business. I think that we're being faithful to Steve King's work. You could change the ending, but I don't think that you'd get the same impact on an audience. I know that there was a major studio that took a book called Bonfire of the Vanities, and they changed the ending of Bonfire of the Vanities, and we know what happened to that.
Absolutely.
And so I've basically made a very successful business out of basically staying with what Steve King wanted to do. He's the creative half of my partnership, and so I get the right people in the room, lock the door, and if I'm doing my job in a way that's appropriate, hopefully the right people are going to carry us through.
Do you have any big names behind this corporate-wise yet?
I really don't sell the advertising time, and so that's really something that ABC would have to speak more specifically to. But my understanding, my understanding is they've sold out, and they've ordered another miniseries from us, which begins production in July, also based on a Steve King story.
Okay.
And so I would say to you that, irrespective, I say that some people doth protest too much, I think that on a business level, this is actually terrific. We've covered all of our costs in the production of the miniseries between domestic and foreign.
You have built, obviously, quite a reputation for yourself in marketing on a miniseries basis or a regular series basis, anything from Tales from the Dark Side, Monsters, as you said, Pet Sematary, Creepshow. Is there ever a point at which Americans are going to say, no more horror?
I don't believe so. I believe that it's sort of a fundamental. I think that Alfred Hitchcock pointed out that when you hold the newborn baby up and you go boo, the baby laughs, the baby doesn't cry. And I think there's really something fundamental about a safe, anxiety-producing experience, whether it be home in front of the television or in a theater, that actually is a positive experience that people enjoy.
Okay.
It's not like your boss yelling at you.
No, not at all. No, that could be another whole story. But Mr. Rubinstein, thank you. We got to talk about Business Insiders, the movie. I guess we'll do that after a whole other thing. But thank you very much. Richard Rubinstein, Laurel Entertainment. By the way, shares of Laurel Entertainment's parent company right now are trading down 3/8 to 10 1/4, having nothing to do, I'm sure, with what this gentleman said. All right, want to sell you the stock that's a good buyout bet? Well, David Faber has got the goods next on Street Talk.
This is CNBC.
What tire do you trust in the wet? A tire that removes over 2 gallons of water per second from under the tread. The all-season MX4. Another engineering splash from Michelin.
Westview Resources Incorporated, a publicly traded company, is on a threshold of opportunity where the upside potential is measured in billion-dollar multiples. Westview is currently drilling 5 of their 32 Canadian diamond pipe targets. The 5 prospective sites were targeted as a result of an extensive heavy mineral testing program that produced positive results in 153 out of 156 tests. Over